wooden beams would have been lifted across the doors to secure them there. So there really was no question of getting in once the doors were shut and barred. And I suppose, just in case somebody got this far who wasn't regarded as a desirable guest or whatever, there was a little spy hole there, and I imagine a porter or somebody was sitting in the cubicle behind it, and he would look out and, if necessary, open the little window and ask what your business was.
Lissadell is one of the most romantic of Irish country houses. It was the childhood home of the nationalist heroine Constance Gore Booth, and Yeats was a regular houseguest. During the Land War, the butler at Lissadell was Thomas Kilgallen. In his memoirs, he detailed the precautions the family took against attack.
There were rumours of the Fenians rising at this time. There were great preparations in the house for their reception. Iron plates were fitted on lower bedroom shutters, and here they are to this day. Old guns and rifles carefully examined and loaded. Hand grenades, pistols, and swords seen to. The bullet moulds taken out, and bullets made for each of the different rifles. Extra powder and shot ordered. All the rifles and guns were muzzle loaders. I was kept busy making bullets in the gun room. Nothing came of it.
There were about 1,000 tenants on the Lissadell estate. The average holding was a mere 30 acres. The famine had hit Sligo particularly hard, and although Sir Robert Gore Booth was not among the toughest of Irish landlords, many of his tenants still lived in desperate poverty.
He had an unpopular agent at one point, but as I'm always saying to my own agent, it's part of the job of being the agent to be the Mr. Nasty, if you like. I think he was always on good terms with people who lived here, but being a powerful man and liking to have his own way, he obviously had some enemies.
During the Land War, any big house was a likely target. At Lissadell, they received one of the so-called Captain Moonlight letters, which was sent as a threat to many Irish landlords.
My dear Lucifer, I must inform you that you have the poorest tenants in Ireland, and all owing to your bad treatment. But do you see bad? The time has come that, by God, we don't care for man or the devil, is that you are stuck in Lissadell like the devil in hell. But I'll meet you like Parson Bell. On the reverse side of the sheet of paper was a sketch of a coffin marked died 1882, and the words Captain Moonlight printed in large letters. That must have sent a shiver down his spine, I suppose.
The biggest shock for the British establishment came with the Phoenix Park murders in 1882. Frederick Cavendish, Lord Hartington's younger brother, was set upon and killed a few hours after he arrived in Dublin to be the new Chief Secretary. Ireland now dominated British politics. The painting in the Lords actually depicts the famous Home Rule debate in 1893. It was in this debate that the Liberal peers, led by Lord Hartington, joined forces with the Tories under their leader, Lord Salisbury, and defeated Home Rule.
He was wrong over Home Rule. He was wrong for perfectly good reason, which was that he thought that Ireland, separate from the United Kingdom, would suffer materially, and I think that's probably true to say that it has done. I mean, but man doesn't live by bread alone, and he didn't see the strength of nationalism.
Irish landowners were saved from Home Rule, but over the next 10 years a series of new laws encouraged them to sell land to their tenants. At Lissadell, the Gore Booths eventually reduced their estate from 30,000 to 3,000 acres. Sir Henry Gore Booth, son of Sir Robert, devoted less time than his father to public affairs and estate management, and concentrated instead on his own private obsession, travel and exploration. With his butler Kilgallen as steward, Sir Henry made a series of Arctic voyages, hunting whales and bears as he went.
I think it might be interesting to describe the incident of the bear, because obviously in the Arctic you come across bears quite often. And on one occasion, my great-grandfather, who was quite a keen shot, got a bear in his sights, pulled the trigger of his rifle, and the trigger didn't do what it should. The rifle just clicked, and the bear was obviously fairly close. And the story is that Kilgallen, faithful to the last, got hold of another rifle, shot the thing between the eyes. Anyway, here is the bear, which was brought back to Lissadell and stuffed. It's been given some cosmetic treatment recently. The feet had fallen off when it was used by my father and his brothers and sisters to negotiate their bicycles around the hall. But there is the bear, and we're proud to have him.
Travel to exotic locations was fashionable among Victorian aristocrats. Egypt was a popular destination. Christopher Sykes went there, as did the Duke and Duchess of Devonshire. Others went to Africa and India. It seemed that many aristocrats were choosing to escape the increasingly competitive business of public life for the thrills of travel and exploration. Sir Henry Gore Booth's greatest Arctic adventure was a rescue mission.
He had a great friend called Lee Smith, who'd gone off to the Arctic in a separate vessel called the Era in, I think, 1881. And Sir Henry had said jovially, while walking down Regent Street or whatever, if you aren't back by such and such a date, I'll come and rescue you. And, of course, he didn't return by such and such a date, so Sir Henry felt in honour bound to go and rescue him. So he got hold of this boat, and off he went. And eventually he met up with Lee Smith, whose boat was completely fast in the ice, and brought him home. And in gratitude, Lee Smith gave Sir Henry his boot, which survives to this day, rather like the bear over there, the boot worn by Mr. Lee Smith in Franz Joseph Land, where he wintered 1881 and 82, owing to the loss of his yacht Ara, with nearly all his provisions. They lived principally on walruses and bears. It must have been an anxious winter, don't you think?
And aristocrats didn't just travel for fun. There was an empire to rule too. The Marquess of Aberdeen spent 5 years in Canada as Governor-General, and then a further 10 as Viceroy of Ireland. With his wife Ishbel as Vicereine, they were expected to preside at Dublin Castle in grand style and at their own expense. Earl Beauchamp was Governor-General of New South Wales at the tender age of 27, and Lord Curzon was one of a number of peers who enjoyed the most sought-after imperial position of all, Viceroy of India. But at home, landowners faced another new threat to their estates: death duties. At Chatsworth, the Duke of Devonshire claimed the modest 8% tax would make it impossible for him to keep up Chatsworth. The Duke of Richmond and 50 other peers signed a petition complaining about the disastrous effects of the new tax. In 1897, Queen Victoria celebrated her Diamond Jubilee. Despite their anxieties about death duties and agricultural depression, the aristocracy still ruled the social world, and the celebrations gave them a chance to prove it. By now, the Duchess of Devonshire was a dominant figure in smart society, and she decided she would throw the biggest party of all for the Jubilee season. The Duke's London residence was Devonshire House, a vast mansion just off Piccadilly. The Duchess announced that there would be a grand ball there in July. She asked her guests to come as allegorical or historical figures from before 1815. She would be a Syrian queen, Zenobia of Palmyra.
You can't see that she was beautiful, I don't think, in either of these, but it's very hard. I don't know how old she was to that, but it's hard with other fashions. Look at the hair, how strange.
The present Duchess still keeps the original costume in her wardrobe.
But that little short neck is so unattractive, isn't it? don't you think? This is her dress that she wore, and here she is in it. Looking a right fright, really, doesn't she? The work on it is wonderful, isn't it? And the weight of it. And, I mean, it's all proper heavy stuff. It's not real jewels, but it's the next best thing. I believe some of them did have real jewels on their clothes, sewn onto their clothes. It does seem incredible, doesn't it? But they really went to town over the dressing up.
The Duke came as the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, with a costume based on a portrait by Titian.
He must have been absolutely fed up with it, because it's the sort of thing he really hated, I think. He was not interested in social life at all. He was a politician by nature, statesman, really. I think he thought it was the most frightful waste of time, but he adored his wife. He'd have done anything to please her.
In the garden at Devonshire House, the society photographers set up a studio in a tent to record the guests in their costumes. The resulting album gives a vision of one of the most extravagant aristocratic parties ever.
Oh dear, they are funny, aren't they? The Countess of Minto. Well, she didn't look too bad. Beautiful dress, don't you think? Strange witch's hat. But this one, do look at that one. Do look at the photographer's furniture, how funny it is. Lady Doreen Long as Urania, goddess of astronomy. Princess of Wales, Prince of Wales, Duke and Duchess of York, Duchess of Fife, Duke of Fife, Princess Charles of Denmark, Duchess of Connaught. I do see they all came.
The Prince of Wales was guest of honour. He came as the Grand Prior of the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, sporting a diamond Maltese cross. And new money was well represented in the shape of some of the Prince's smarter friends. Ernest Cassel, dressed as the painter Velázquez, was actually a financier and an advisor to the Prince. And Alfred Beit, who had made a fortune in the diamond mines of South Africa, was there as Prince Frederick of Nassau. The American wives were there in force. The daughter of the founder of the Marshall